Welcome, everybody. This is the Rotary E-Club of Silicon Valley, and every week we bring you the stories of people who make their communities better. How do they do all of this wildly cool stuff locally, globally, and digitally? They do it out of a goal to enjoy and find meaning in serving others. And Rotary International is a group of people, a million plus folks around the world, 36,000 clubs, that is dedicated to exactly that. Our particular club, the Rotary E-Club of Silicon Valley, is both online and asynchronous, which means our members can take in the meeting anytime between Monday morning and Sunday night. Such a flexible system for some crazy busy people who are out there but have a heart for service and want to connect with a group to do it. Speaking of connecting, libraries do that in a really amazing way in their communities. And today we are talking with Hazel Onsrud from the Curtis Memorial Library. And she is going to talk to us about the sharing economy, about the library of things, and about all things that make communities all the cooler. Hazel, it is very cool that we have you with us. Welcome to the Rotary E-Club of Silicon Valley.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm delighted to be here and chat with you all. So I guess I'll take it away. Wonderful. So I'm here to talk about, as you can see, libraries and our diverse place in the sharing economy. I work at a public library in Maine, on the coast. And there we're a little odd, and I'm going to explain to you in what way. There we go. So first off today, I'm going to talk to you about a number of things. Libraries have to do two things really well. We have to let you engage, and we also have to let you escape. And those are two very separate things that are hard to do, but really essential to the way we work. So I'm going to talk a little bit about you and the general sharing economy, what the modern library really is like. I'm going to talk a little bit about lending beyond books. We're going to talk about collections and programming to meet community needs and what we like to call missing literacies in our communities. And then, most importantly, I'm going to talk about how y'all can join the fun. So, in fact, I'm actually going to cheat and start with how you all can join the fun too. So, first off, whenever after this presentation, or if you haven't done it before, I really encourage you to think of libraries whenever you're looking for collaborators for a cool idea. We are in every community. And I can't say every community around the world. So in that case, I would tell people about libraries. If you're in a part of the world where they don't have libraries, tell them about libraries, libraries of things in the sharing economy, because we're a real force. And then finally, I would encourage you to reach out to experienced library of thing practitioners to get involved with your own project, your own ideas or talents or resources. We are a friendly bunch, I promise. We hang out and try to share a lot. So don't hesitate to get in touch. And this is my email here if you would prefer to talk to me. So this really cool future is near where you could take, we have these, things called phones, and you could be browsing around, walking around and see something cool and be like, wow, that looks really neat. You could scan it, take a look, or you could search for it, and you could actually go and borrow that cool thing, reserve it online, and go pick it up at your local library. Yes, this exists. We can make it happen. And the cool thing is, you don't need to just pick it up at your local library. There's actually a wide variety of ways we can share. So you could go to your local public library, but you could also start a street share where your neighbor had an electric lawnmower and you had an electric wood chipper. And y'all didn't need to own all that. You just had, your kind of communal garage. And it doesn't have to be a physical communal garage. There are different ways around that. You can each have your own garage if you want it. But you could see how this idea could extend. You could have a toy share. You could have a maker space. You probably already have some of these things in your community. Maybe in your community you already have a spot, like a space that allows you to rent office space or time. Well, imagine this. What if your local library offered a pass to that space for free? Guess what? It's already happening. At my local library, we're really lucky. This year, we're piloting a pass so that you can go borrow any gear you need to go camping because they have washing equipment and we're just not so good at storing canoes nor doing all the laundry. But now you can go borrow all of that with your library pass for free. So the modern library isn't a shushing place anymore, in case you missed it. In fact, we don't really shush in mine. There's only one room in which you have to be silent. for, there's nice fire in there too, so you can work and read. But the modern library is a really unique space. In fact, we encourage you to come hang out in it because we're free and open to all, and you don't have to buy anything to be there. We also have a public phone, we have public bathrooms, we have public internet. We have a help desk where you can go up and ask them anything. Okay, not anything, no yelling swears, people. But besides that, it's pretty close. And we will do our best to help you. In fact, that's our job. Sometimes in other libraries, they call this the reference desk, but the concept is the same. So this is a pretty unique service in the modern world, and it's not something to be taken lightly because at the same time, as we provide all these other things and spaces for collaboration, we also are a place where people are getting, sometimes we provide resource swaps. At my library, we provide places you can come every Tuesday. You could get art supplies or lend or give away your old art supplies for free. Or the piece of nails and screws that you had left over in your basement? Just drop them off at the library. Someone else will take them. So it's really important to know modern libraries actually think sustainability is a core value, and that's a goal that we all are helping our communities achieve. And you can do this in a number of ways. The Sustainable Libraries Initiative is a great organization that actually helps libraries do this all over the world. So another thing to know, so this is our library, and here at our library, we're part of the Sustainable Libraries Initiative, and we also are a little odd, like I warned you, because we lend things. Our general rule is we try not to lend hate, dangerous germs, or underwear, but besides that, we're pretty open-minded about what we're willing to share. And so this means that we've set up a system. We lend over 1,500 items just in the adult section. And you can see we actually even made it look okay looking on the shelves. Every item has a tag and we check them in and out just like a book. So these things, you can see we put them into different categories, but the categories don't matter so much. But you can see we have event kits, we have sports and recreation kits, we have home and garden kits, and they all have different goals. Just like a collection development of books might have different goals at specialty libraries, we have different goals here. We also run swaps and and we're very explicit about what we don't lend. So it's just as important to say what we don't lend as what we do, because we want to point you in the right direction on how to find those consumables or how to get that scaffolding without us having to lend it at the public library. And so this came about because we were trying to focus on actions that fit and that helped us meet our community needs. And this is our really fancy scientific formula that we use to do that. We want to turn sad faces into happy faces, people. Okay? And to do that, we get groups of people together, we provide them with resources, often which are books, and we run programs. And those programs we run with a sustainability lens. So we want all of the solutions we come up with to be globally responsible, even though we're working on local problems. And so this led us to lend tools because the tools help our community take action. Here you can see a diagram of how we use all these different tools to help support the Sustainable Development Goals. But hint, they actually support some other goals too. So this has a lot of benefits, and anyone you talk to at our library is going to tell you there's different benefits. Like I talked to a little girl today, and she told me the best thing in our library was the cotton candy machine, which isn't even on here, right? And she learned she used local maple syrup to make local maple syrup cotton candy this year. Um, but other things are sometimes we have conversation kits that lets grandparents connect with grandchildren. Other times we're helping folks save money by lending a seeder that lets you plant a garden like that in your front yard. Other times, we're really improving safety by providing cones and emergency equipment for folks during power outages. Outages. Other times, we're really providing joy. When loneliness is epidemic and we have dementia, we have all these life challenges, that is not to be underestimated. Again, libraries are here to help us engage and escape. So I know I'm running short on time, but if you can't tell, I would talk about this for ages. And it ends up we do. There's a whole posse of us, both outside the traditional library world, where you're talking about public libraries, specialty libraries, academic libraries, and more, as well as in the traditional library world. And the cool news is you are absolutely invited to join us. We want you. We want your talents. We want your ideas. We want you just even sitting there listening if you would like to learn more. And unlike, a couple decades ago, we actually have experienced humans to help you. It works. Don't be scared of bed bugs, of cleaning, of whatever, of liability, of whatever, quirk you think, oh no, that can't work. It can. We proved it can all over the world. So please join us and think about repair and how you could be, part of this global sharing ecosystem. So I'm going to end with my last slide, which is what I told you about in the beginning, which is please, think about libraries when you're looking for collaborators. Tell people about libraries, libraries of things, and the sharing economy. And reach out to folks like us on something called the Lot Mutual Aid Group or the Sustainable Libraries Initiative, or just email me. We'll find each other, and we can help you out with your project. We need more of these resources around the world, and the good news is we have models that are scalable, and we can help you out.
Well, fantastic. Hazel, that is fantastic. I love it. I love it. Let's go ahead and stop sharing, get a few introductions out of the way, and then dive into questions because we got plenty of them. So this particular recording, in addition to Hazel joining us from Maine, way up in the northeast corner of the United States, for those of you who are like Maine, that's in the United States, northeast corner. Uh, from the northwest corner of the United States, and actually just north, if you cross the border into Vancouver, you would find Nick Lagarde, and from the Rotary Club of Silicon Valley, and friend of the club in Budapest, Hungary, Victoria Grieshmuller. Very, very cool to see you here as well, because it is quite late there. Now, I would like to start by giving some shout outs. And I'm just gonna like leap on the sharing economy in terms of thoughts on that front. And I want to do that by talking about some of the people that we've had speak, because one of the things that we think is important in our service club is that we have built this library of recordings that can inspire people anywhere. And in the last few years, we have had Emily Drabinski of the American Library Association. She was president and just a completely inspirational figure herself. We had Purnima Rao and Shivam Singh of building the People's Library and India's free library movement. We had Anthony Chow of San Jose State University and Reading Nation Waterfall and the work that he's done, and with others in the indigenous communities around the western part of the United States. And also Sif Jensen from Europe, talking about the human library and the opportunity to check out uh, another person that you can talk to about almost anything. And that is an exceptionally cool possibility. And so when we're talking about really, really cool libraries, we want to start with what it means on the personal level. So as we jump into questions about the Library of Things and what happens at Curtis Memorial, I want to start by just talking about you a little bit. How did you get involved in libraries? What made you decide I want to work professionally in a library? Like what was it that got you to that point?
Well, there's a lot of clever humans who, spend their whole trajectory headed towards libraries. And had I thought about it, I might have been one of them. But no, I actually fell into libraries kind of by accident. I've always been a library user. My mom, especially, we grew up in one town, but she bought library cards to the other towns as well. So power user in that case. But then I actually moved, I was on kind of maybe hoping to be a professor someday, but I got really ill. So I stopped going on that path, moved back to Maine, had to figure out what was going on with my body. It's not a secret. It's just, and then now I'm gluten free and I can see again. So life is fine again. But when I moved back to Maine, I had to think about, okay, what am I going to do here? Because I had a wonderful surprise of having a daughter. And so it kind of changed my life trajectory. And I thought, wow, being in libraries is everything kind of in the there's such a powerful force in the sustainability world. I'd really love to be a part of that. So that's what brought me to the public library, specifically Curtis Memorial. They took a chance on me and let me do a lot of sustainability program. And then the whole team has made this Library of Things happen there. And of course, it's happening around the world. So, life can take you in interesting directions.
One would hope that it would, for sure. Now that process. of becoming someone who really sees the links between the community and libraries and the possibilities for both led you to be named a changemaker by the New York Times this year, I believe. What Tell me about that. What is it that they zeroed in on? I'm sure that given the conversation that I've had with you, that you will be quick to talk about the team that made it possible for people to take notice of what's happening at Curtis Memorial.
Yeah, well, so again, I am. I'm going to go back and say, actually, they have a wonderful series of the New York Times called 50 States, 50 Solutions. And one of my amazing colleagues in South Portland, Lisa Joyce, deserves credit. She was really amazing and said, wow, they really should talk about libraries and especially the Library of Things that we're building here in Maine. Because she is a really innovative model too, where they looked at what Curtis was doing and what some others were doing, and then they wanted to meet their climate goals. And so they were like, okay, if they did it, how are we going to do this? So they started an electric tool library. And that electric tool library. So we have all those tools, but they did it in a different way. And they said, no, we're just going to own like four different electric tools, and everyone's going to come borrow them. And then it's going to convince people to buy those tools, and we'll all reduce our greenhouse gas emissions. And so, as part of this, that was one of the amazing case studies about how you can have all these different libraries of things meeting your unique different needs. And together, if we can do it in Maine, come on, anyone can do it around the world. We're not that cool or special. I love, don't get me wrong, I love these great humans. I love our community, but like we can all do this in a way that meets our community's needs.
So awesome. And now, speaking of that team that makes things happen where you
Mhm.
are, tell me about the group. Who are the people you work with? What is it that you have learned about a team at a library? Help us kind of better understand the inner workings of these amazing institutions that improve the lives of everybody in the community.
Yeah, I mean, everyone is a part of the public library. So that's part of the ethic. It's free and open to all in the public library. And of course, I've mentioned other types of libraries. There's specialty libraries, there's academic libraries, but overall, that's the concept, right? It's really core to the values. And you see that at our library, for example. When we were closed for a small amount of time during COVID, I went through three pairs of shoes doing the jobs all the volunteers do. And I buy good shoes. These are not bad shoes because I was running up and down the stairs so much. So that's the community who comes in the building. But then there's also the other staff members. Like I was trying not to laminate anything when I first did this because I was coming from the tool library world and we were using markers and etching pens and I was just trying to avoid plastic. Well, oops, that was a bad decision. And my colleagues quickly called us out and said, okay, no, we got to laminate. It's worth it. This is really important. Same with buying some heavy duty plastic things to make sure that we kept. I'm going back to the libraries really have to help folks engage with each other and engage with topics and engage with community in the way you might not normally, but we also have to help you escape because we're all better when we're relaxed, when we're not under threat, right? And so if you go into a public library and you just saw a bucket full of tools, that may or may not stress some people out. I can tell you it would definitely stress some out. So it was really important for us to find a system where we could have all these items, but that it would meet the public library aesthetic. And also safety, right? We don't want pointy, sharp, pointy objects in a place where, some mischievous humans might use them in ways that they're not supposed to. So again, we're all constantly improving. And now that we have this lot mutual aid group, which is it's simple, it's just a Google group. You can all join it. We all are leveling each other up constantly every day.
I'll note that the LOT, Library of Things, Lot Mutual Aid Group, that link is where you found this video, whether it's on the Rotary page that we run, our YouTube channel, or on one of our podcast channels. So make sure to check these links out. I love that you talk about engage and escape as these ideas moderately in tension, but also creating this environment that's really good for people. You also talk and framed the talk around the idea of the sharing economy. That brings up a feature of our world that has been far more prominent in the last couple of years, and Victoria asked about. How do you treat artificial intelligence in your space? Like, is it a tool for achieving certain ends? Is it a problem to be dealt with in particular ways? How do you go about it?
Yeah, well, I am not the best person to ask on that one because I just used it for the first time the other day. So there are some great librarians. One, the current president of Sustain RT, I know has done a lot of work calling out academic work, calling out, hey, we need to know more about the environmental footprint of AI so that we can then appropriately educate other librarians and ourselves on how to appropriately use this. There's so many different things we can talk about when we talk about AI is game changing. I will say the first time I used it the other day was to actually make that app that I was telling you about here because I knew this future was near. Certainly on my camera can identify certain things on my phone, and then I can go know what that item is called, and then I can go reserve it at the public library. But I haven't synced it all into one app yet. But I prototyped it by using AI quickly online. It didn't work very well. It said like a bicycle set was a domino set or vice versa. It reserved the wrong set for me, but the fact that it got there in less than 3 minutes, I know because I timed it, was interesting. So I don't know what we're going to do. It's certainly going to play a role. And I think there's a lot to be said, especially with when you're comparing like the traditional cataloging world and where we could go and how we could support multilingualism and the wide variety of how we name tools. Right now, we're pretty basic, but you know what? I think the most important thing is actually basic works just fine. You can have a library of things with a sheet of paper. You can have a shared garage with an online shared spreadsheet. These are not our primary hurdles.
Well, if you leapt into AI by immediately starting to vibe code, there's something that's absolutely positive about that. I can imagine that for people who really want to get into exploring books that they normally wouldn't run across, there being a tool that can say, well, if you like this, and this, and in these ways, would you also be interested in something like this? That, I mean, you can imagine getting some really good book recommendations in a system that was well constructed.
Oh yeah, no, and we do actually. It's all over in certain tools. So we have plenty of tools on that. I guess I just meant my personal experience. Yes, it's infiltrating the industry for sure.
Makes sense. So, um, when the people come in to get tools or to get anything in the library of things, whether it's a canoe or whatever it might be, describe the process. So you can imagine that there's somebody in the community who was talking to a neighbor. The neighbor said, "Yeah, I picked up the popcorn maker at the library," and they're like, "Wait, what?" And so they come in for the first time, and you're introducing them to the way this works. How is that experience for the newbie in a library of things?
Well, we started by getting feedback from everyone. We didn't just go out and spend a bunch of money and buy stuff. Said no library ever, by the way. Um, but we really again it really was based off of user needs. So this is about 9 years we've built this collection of over 1,500 items, right? So most recently, like this past year we ran some drywalling classes and plumbing classes. So we bought those tools to go along with that class. We hadn't had those tools before. Not that we didn't care about those tools, but we were working on like food insecurity needs and things like that. And I can absolutely tell you the impact's real. I mean, I've had people run up and hug me and say, we kept them in their apartment this month because of the library of things. Like this is, and of course, other folks being like, oh my gosh, I, connected with my granddaughter. Ends up she loves wood carving. Who knew? Because they were able to borrow those tools. And same with like we ran in uh, uh, different craft classes. So we got craft tools for those classes. But so if someone comes in, we explain it to them and they go, what, for real? Really? If they hadn't heard about it. And then we say, yeah, sure. And then folks come up with, wait a minute, that can't really work. Sometimes they're like not believing that this doesn't work or that we're going to get things stolen from us or things, but ends up, think about it. Libraries have been around for a really long time. we've already dealt with, bugs. We've already dealt with people, occasionally, losing a book in a puddle. We've already dealt with all of this. So like we're pretty good at sharing. So really the items that, so we prioritize, right? And you prioritize for your community. So for example, in my community, some really great items are in that $100 to $400 range. And so in things you use, once a year and are paying to store. So like we have this beautiful metal stainless steel dehydrator. It can do you like 2 years worth of apples in an afternoon. It's gorgeous. But like no one really wants to own that. They have to store it. It's kind of a pain. Versus in another area of the country, a colleague in Ann Arbor, they don't actually do kitchen tools, but they do a ton of music tools and lighting equipment. So there you can go get every type of guitar pedal imaginable. Well, not every type, I'm sure, but a lot more than we have. And it's super cool. But that's because they have other resources in their community that people can go to for those things.
So that brings up the partnerships angle. You talk in your
Yeah,
presentation about, hey, partner with your libraries, partner with your libraries.
yeah.
You guys have done some active partnering with your community. I mean, you may have had someone on staff that knew how to do the drywalling, or maybe that you called up, Group X or Company Y in order to say, can we work with you? Tell us a little bit about the partnership angle on how you are making a difference in your community as a function of active partnerships.
Yeah, I mean, that I think is what the modern library is now, right? If you think about it, we rely on the people who come in our door, no matter how you're funded, right? That we all rely on different, around the states, it's different. Canada, around the world, it's different. But overall, we are a community. And so for us, partnerships has been integral to that. We rely on, um, working with other people to help solve problems. And I think that's the other thing to think about. There's enough problems in the world that we don't need to compete to solve them. If you want to solve that one, go for it. I will cheer you on. I'll go help it solve another one, right? So in our case, we actually when some of us started programming, we started talking about this as terms of missing literacies. So, for example, when we were looking at food insecurity in our community, we were talking about, oh, so we need some growing literacy, we need some cooking literacy, just like when we were looking at kind of how folks didn't have the online skills or the computer skills, we're missing digital literacy, right? Well, the same goes for civic literacy. The same goes for, traditional arts literacy, traditional skill literacy. Ends up to do crafts, we don't have to buy a bunch of plastic to make more plastic to eventually throw it away. Ends up you can do a lot of those, crafts with wonderful traditional materials that are absolutely gorgeous and still provide all the benefits that crafts can provide to your community. So yeah, it's absolutely essential. And we look at for, you know, anyone we have there's all sorts of ways to find out about needs assessment in your community, but one of the easiest ways is to go talk to people and local nonprofits, local government agencies, local businesses who are out there doing the work, talking to people. They'll tell you what they need.
Well, I love that. But I hate that we're running out of time. So what I think I'm going to do this at this point is wind things down and then hand it back to you for the final word. For all of you, though, who have joined us, we thank you. We thank you for spending your time getting to hear the stories that we get to share as a part of our service group, the Rotary E-Club of Silicon Valley, most easily accessed at rotary.cool, by the way. And what we want is for you to tell others about what you heard here or about the kinds of things you learned about libraries. It could be any of the stories that we've shared over the last 10, almost 11 years of running this club in the highly flexible way we do. We hope you will let us know that you visited. If you are on the SiliconValleyRotary.com page, you might see at the bottom of the screen a discuss, DISQUS section where you can say, hey, I thought this, or I had a question about this, and you're welcome to leave notes there. We find our ways to communicate in an online and asynchronous group. As we always like to do, we hand it back to our speaker for the final word. So, Hazel, what would you like people to kind of have clearly in mind as they finish up watching this video or listening to this podcast?
Think of how you can work with libraries. Libraries want to work with you. So just please, when in doubt, think of a library.
I love it. Thank you. Thank everyone. We will see you next week.